We are getting closer and closer to Battlefield 6, and we've actually found out now that on the 26th, just 14 days from now, we are going to be getting a breakdown and our first look at the Battlefield 6 campaign. And before that, we have a couple more Battlefield games that I want to dive into the backstory of. Now, today is an interesting one because I think it's actually one of the best Battlefield campaigns, and that is Battlefield 1. However, these stories are told in a different way. This game tells the story of World War I in a way like I've never seen before, and we're going to look at that overarching story, but specifically, it tells 5 different stories from around the world, all with their own themes, characters, and we're going to be diving into every single one of them. There's going to be timestamps for each one if you have a favorite, but I really recommend watching it all the way through so that you can see how the story progresses the way that they wanted it to. This is an interesting one. It's going to be different than any other Battlefield game we've done before. And one other thing, it does tie in to the overall story of Battlefield, which includes Battlefield 3, Battlefield 6, Battlefield 4, and even 2042. And we'll show you that connection as well. So without further ado, this is the story explained for Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 tells the story of World War I. It's a gruesome story and specifically meant to show you how horrible this war was for many reasons. First of all, it took place after the Industrial Revolution and kind of at the beginning of a new era before the information era, but the beginning of a war era. 60 million people were involved. It was called the War to End All Wars, but as we know, there's been many, many wars since. But most interestingly, if you were on the front lines, you weren't expected to survive.
We're surrounded! We have to hold this line!
The prologue takes place on the Western Front as the 369th Infantry Regiment, which was American, as well as French and British allies, make a desperate last stand against the Imperial German Army onslaught. We start off playing as Adolf Simmons, a man just trying to help his squad survive and hold the line against the German forces as they push forward. Just 23 years old, this is what happens.
We came from all over the world. So many of us thinking this war would be our rite of passage, our great adventure. Let me tell you, it was no adventure.
Raymond Newberry, on the other hand, was a little bit further behind the lines. He was pushed back into a church which he is defending with a mounted gun. Eventually, though, his forces get overwhelmed and he is tasked with simply defending the church. But as more and more German soldiers storm the church and more of them have flamethrowers, they simply get overwhelmed. And at 24 years old, that is the end of Raymond.
New killing machines, like the tank, changed the shape of the war overnight. Luckily, they were mostly on our side. Mostly.
Now we then move to someone who is inside a tank, and their job was to push back the Germans, try to push back the front line of their troops. And having some armor and having some protection is nice, but Joseph Anderson, at just 21 years old, finds out the hard way that just because you're in a tank doesn't mean that tank is impenetrable.
Incoming!
Instead of adventure, we found fear. And in war, the only true equalizer is death.
Then we have Joseph Liberty, who at the age of 18 fights through the trenches, avoids the gas, working with a gas mask, but still can't make it out alive. And one thing is abundantly clear, war doesn't care what your age is. If you are on the front lines, like we said, you are expected to die. Mud and Blood is a mission taking place on October 17th, and it tells the story how a chauffeur, a high-end chauffeur driver at that, goes from wearing white gloves to having his hands covered in blood. Danny Edwards ends up being the driver of a Mark V land ship known as Black Bess, and his job with a small crew of people inside his tank is to push forward and take a town called Cambrai. You see, the Germans have dug in and tried to hold their position for the winter, and waves of infantry soldiers have been dying as they try to push forward. But the British have what the Germans don't, a bunch of tanks, and Black Bess just so happens to be one of them. And this is where Danny meets his crew.
Whoa, no, don't swear. She does not like it when you swear. Finch. You've done this before.
Done what before?
Mind your business with manners. Listen, don't worry. She'll look after you, yeah?
All right, boys. This is the big one. Our orders are to punch through the German line, destroying artillery positions as we go. Finch.
Yes, sir.
Our crew consists of Finch, Pritchard, McManus, ourself, Danny, and finally our leader, Townsend. And we are sent towards Cambrai. And as we start and push towards Cambrai, we end up finding out that our crew might actually be able to work together quite well, and things are going well until the tank starts to break down. And as the mechanic or engineer, Finch hops out of the tank to repair it when this happens.
Edwards? Edwards? You good? You sure?
So Finch is the first fatality of Black Bess's crew, and fortunately, Edwards is able to pick up the repair tool, fix up the tank, and they're able to get on their way. Now, they're doing quite well until they hit, well, essentially a giant mud puddle and are ambushed by German soldiers. The soldiers flood the tank, storming on top of it, and end up shoving their hands inside with pistols just to fire off some shots. And one of them actually lands on Pritchard.
Edwards behind you!
Now, at the time, there was no radios, cell phones, or any way to get in contact with command, except for one thing: pigeons. They used carrier pigeons to send messages, and this tank had one on board. Now, luckily, Danny was just able to release the pigeon in time, which held the coordinates of where their tank is being held. Now, for a set amount of time, the crew was stuck inside their tank with Germans trying to get inside, with their only hope being this pigeon that could get back to command, give it the coordinates of the tank, and hopefully the artillery could save them.
Here it comes, boys. Nice serving with your lads. Marching dogs!
Now, somehow the artillery takes out all the German soldiers and you're left alive inside the tank. And somehow you even get the tank started. Now, once the tank gets going, the area is absolutely covered in fog. So Edwards is actually sent outside of the tank to scout ahead to let our guys know what's up ahead and clear the way if at all possible. Now, they work their way through the fog and work their way through a ton of enemies before in the middle of the night, their tank ends up breaking down. Their spark plugs stop working and they're left with one last option, and that is to sneak into a nearby town and try to steal some spark plugs from the Germans. And luckily, Edwards isn't just able to drive this huge hunk of steel, he also has massive balls of steel and is able to sneak into the town and escape with spark plugs. Now they end up getting the tank running, and now at this point, essentially they are behind enemy lines, and now they've worked their way to a rail yard where they see the Germans are actually building up their tank defenses and are ready to pull an attack on them. So what do? They stay in the rail yard and have a tank on tank fight, and they actually win. And as they go out of the rail yard and push back towards their army's lines, well, they get hit by artillery, and this artillery disables their tank. They are then stormed by Germans, and Edwards and McManus end up getting out of the tank, but the Germans just keep coming. And well, this is what happens.
Are you okay, Edward? Sorry, Bex.
Townsend ends up blowing up Black Bess, and somehow, I don't know how, Edwards survives. Now, this push towards Cambrai may have won the war, as just 1 month later, the war was over. There was over 300 tanks that participated in this battle, and thousands upon thousands, of course, died. But one person who didn't was Daniel Edwards. Neither did his friend McManus.
So, what do we do now, driver?
We walk.
Friends in High Places tells the story of the Royal Flying Corps, basically a group of British soldiers who fly airplanes to try to counteract the German forces who 100% had air superiority during World War I. Now, the average lifespan for one of these pilots in the RFC was about 17 days long, but this is the story of a liar and a cheat.
I have nothing left to bet, you idiot.
The plane.
That's rich. Oh, why the hell not? I've got you beaten anyway.
Yeah.
What have you got? Wipe your mouth, Blackburn.
That wasn't supposed to happen. But you know, I'll be taking that plane anyway.
What the bloody hell? You lost. I beat you.
The thing is, Rackham, it's a very beautiful aeroplane, and you're kind of a jackass.
I beat you fair and square, goddammit! Stay the hell away from my kite! Oh, you bastard! You can't do this to me! I beat you! I beat you!
My name's Clyde Blackburn.
Whoa, 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 let's hold up right there. Did you catch that? His name is Clyde Blackburn. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is the tie-in to all the other Battlefield games. Blackburn is the same last name as the main character within Battlefield 3. Now, I know you could be saying that's just a stretch or whatever, that they have the same last name, but also there are massive similarities in their story. In Battlefield 3, the story of Blackburn, who goes by the name of Henry, by the way, both of these characters are American, and Henry Blackburn, his story is about him getting court-martialed because his higher-ups believe they are lying to him. Keep that in mind as we go through Clyde's backstory. Anyway, back to Clyde.
Clyde Blackburn. I'm a pilot and a gambler.
I'm George Rackham! I'm George bloody Rackham! Listen to me! You bastard! Keep off my aeroplane!
If you asked me to name my biggest fault, I'd have to tell you, I'm just not a very honest person.
This is followed up by Clyde going and introducing himself to his co-pilot by the name of Wilson as George Rackham. Now, of course, he doesn't have an accent or anything along those lines, but they end up working together and going for a test flight. This is where you kind of learn how the plane works, and quite literally, you're flying George Rackham's plane. Now, eventually, on said test flight, some German planes end up coming to attack you. Now, you end up taking them out, but you follow one back, and as it turns out, it is flying back to a massive German stockpile of weapons, which Wilson is able to snap a picture of, and you are able to convince him to go tell the higher-ups. Now, Wilson doesn't want to do so for a couple of reasons. Number one, they kind of took the plane where they weren't supposed to, not obeying orders. Also, he doesn't want to go back to the German base and get shot down, hurt, or even killed. However, Clyde convinces him that if they show them, they're going to be rewarded for it and maybe even given medals.
You might want to take a look at these.
Saints alive, your man must be
One hell of a plan.
So Clyde, who they still believe is George Rackham, by the way, is sent into the stronghold alongside a bunch of bombers to go take out the German weapons. Now, before they leave, Wilson makes Clyde make one big promise.
Then you need to promise me that you'll get me back in one piece.
Sure thing.
Promise. I need your word.
Okay, I promise.
Now, the word from someone who is a self-proclaimed liar is a little bit shoddy. Now, they end up going in, taking out the German stronghold. The bombers end up landing. However, they end up getting shot down. Now, Blackburn ends up waking up behind enemy lines, and he knows that the nose of his plane went down in no man's land, but Wilson is separated from him, and he presumes that he is dead. Now, here's the problem, though. In order for Blackburn to live, he has to make his way through enemy lines and then make his way through no man's land. Now, no man's land is called no man's land for a reason, because no man traditionally is able to live there. People die extremely quickly, and it's the area between the two armies. Here's the thing, while working his way through no man's land, he ends up finding the downed plane, and also ends up finding Wilson.
Wilson, we're in no man's land. We need to go now.
I can't get up.
Shit.
Hey!
I'm sorry.
Will you promise to get me back in one piece?
Just keep it down.
What about medals? What about being heroes?
I'm no hero.
But you gave me your word. Your bleeding word. So either you're a decent bloke who's gonna help me, or you're a lying, no good bastard who'll look me in the eye and finish it. Come on! Which is it? Put your cards on the table, Blackburn. You're not George Rackham, are you? Son of the fourth bloody Earl of Windsor. How naive do you think I am?
Let's get out of here.
So Blackburn ends up carrying Wilson behind enemy lines all the way through no man's land back to the Allied side, and ends up getting them both back alive. However, even though both of them are alive, doesn't mean he is George Rackham.
Guy's a bloody hero.
No, he's nothing of the sort. He's a cheat, a thief, and a liar. And he'll answer for his crimes. That's right, Blackburn.
So Blackburn gets court-martialed, sent back to London to have trial, and could get in a lot of trouble for fraud, for stealing an airplane, for lying to the military, a lot of different things. But luckily, as this happens, or technically you could say unluckily, London gets attacked. Blimps and many airplanes are sent in. So what does Blackburn and Wilson do? They steal an airplane and take to the skies. Now, more or less what ends up happening is they end up landing on a blimp, and then they end up taking out a bunch of blimps. And as the blimp that they are on crashes and quite literally burns, they were able to jump off into the water, which is interesting because that story sounds completely fake, completely made up, and completely from a liar's mouth. And that is because it is. And this is probably my favorite part of that story.
And that's my story. A selfish man who risked his own life to save another, and in doing so, found he was saved himself. Things get mixed up in wartime, though, and you'll probably hear other versions. A rogue pilot who stole a plane, who killed his buddy, then lied, cheated, and murdered his way across half the Western Front, only to escape court-martial in the chaos of an air raid.
And what we are left with is not knowing what parts of this story are true and aren't. But needless to say, it's a pretty great story. The next couple will be a little bit shorter. Now, we're going to start out here with Luca, and he is up in his attic looking at some old war memorabilia when his daughter comes upstairs and asks him what he's looking at, why he's so sad. And what he's looking at is a picture of his twin brother, because this story takes place in 1918 on the day of him and his twin brother's 21st birthday. Here we are on the Mediterranean front, and specifically Matteo, his brother, is assigned to a unit to capture a fort held by Austro-Hungarian forces, where Luca is to support Matteo's battalion to kind of provide covering fire and give them protection. And speaking of protection, Luca puts on a giant suit of armor and starts making his way up the mountain to provide cover support. Now, Luca makes his way up the mountain overlooking Matteo's position and eventually makes his way to an AA gun. And at this time, a bunch of planes end up coming in, and he uses the AA gun to pull the attention of the planes away from his brother. However, when the planes go to fall back, instead of shooting at Luca, they bomb the mountain where Matteo's unit is being held. Now, after waking up, Luca finds himself lost and can, fall back to the rest of his army, but he doesn't because he needs to find his brother. So instead, he pushes towards the exact same fort where Matteo was last seen at, and he storms that fort, takes over, but it is too late.
I'd almost stopped looking. Started giving in to the hope that Matteo had escaped. And then...
No! No! You...
He never got older. And here I am, still. Who decides such things? Buon compleanno, Matteo.
In The Runner, you play as a character by the name of Frederick Bishop, who has been, well, let's just say paired up with a new apprentice.
Frederick Bishop?
Oh, God.
Hey, are you Frederick Bishop?
Nope. He's dead, sorry.
But isn't this your picture?
I suppose so.
Jack Foster. I'm your new charge.
No, you're not. You have to take this kid off me.
Of course not. He came all this way just to see you. Frederick Bishop, the pride of Australia. Been lied about his age to get past conscription.
That apprentice goes by the name of Jack Foster. Now, as far as what we do next, we have to storm a beach. Now, with the help of a dreadnought, this is the first time Australia and New Zealand have fought underneath their own banner and their own flag. Now, Jack Foster wants to go in alongside Frederick Bishop as the tip of the spear. However, this is what happened instead.
Here you go. Yeah, okay, you're staying here. And you will move up with rear command only after I fire the signal flare. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Try to stay out of trouble.
So Frederick Bishop pushes all the way up the beach, all the way up the mountain, and his job is to take the mountain and then fire the flare, ordering the rest of the troops to move up and behind, cleaning the way up. Now, once he gets up there, turns out Jack Foster didn't actually listen. He fires the flare, and lo and behold, guess who followed him all the way up?
Fucking kidding me. Come with me. Here. Look at that, huh? Kid, you lied your way into hell on earth. You just wanted a statue of yourself in your town square.
Now, this is when it is made clear why Frederick Bishop didn't want to work with Jack Foster. He's actually trying to protect him. He's just a kid. He lied about his age just so he could come fight alongside the war. And really, Frederick Bishop, after being in several wars, knows the brutality of them as a whole.
No, you're not. You're Australian. We're impossible to kill.
Yeah. I guess so.
Unless... Not Keeley, eh?
No.
Now, first things first. Yeah, come on, stand up. Follow me. Arm in here. This arm out. Butt into your shoulder. That's it. Cheek against the butt. Oh, that's it. Point it where you want to shoot. That's it. Okay. Get your feet apart a little bit.
So Bishop takes the kid under his wing, and then the next day, they need a runner. Now, they specifically asked Jack Foster, the kid, to be the runner. And essentially what this is instead of a radio, you would have someone on horseback or on foot running between the front line and the back line, trying to get information from person to person. So Bishop says absolutely not, and he takes the job away from Jack Foster and does it for himself, and was running between front line and back line when he almost gets his life taken from him. But guess who's there?
Fucking hell, you could have killed me.
But I didn't.
No, sure fucking didn't.
So he just saved Bishop's life, and now Bishop's becoming a little bit fond of the kid. However, leadership tells him that he needs to go to rear command in order to let them know that they are actually pushing forward with a forward assault. However, when he gets to the rear command, it is actually quite the opposite. He ends up finding a note that says they're losing, so they are retreating, and in order to cover the retreat, they are going to be shelling the crap out of the town that Jack Foster just moved up into. So he rushes back to the front line to let command know they all need to retreat. However, when he gets there, he finds out that isn't going to be able to happen.
Full-scale retreat. They're going to shell the village and the fort to cover us. We need to get out, now.
I sent men up to secure the fort.
A dead man? Who went?
Only those who volunteered, so naturally all of them.
Fucking kids.
But you remember being his age?
Foster.
So Bishop doesn't retreat. He goes after the boy, trying to save him and the rest of the people that have worked their way up into the fort. And when he gets there, he makes a deal with Foster.
What, again? You sure you didn't just want to shoot me?
Come on. Let's get you out of here. This place is about to come down any moment.
We can't leave. There are still hostiles coming, and we can't outrun them with our wounded.
You get going then. I'll cover your retreat.
The bishop is still...
I'll make it look like I'm capturing the fort. It'll be enough distraction. Once you get past Allied lines, send up a flare. Let me know you're safe. I'll make my retreat then. Oh, so you're disobeying orders now?
Well, I assume you did to come here.
Yeah. There. You're a proper Aussie now. Gotta look the part.
Right. Up and at him, lads. Let's go.
So here's the deal that Bishop made. He covers the retreat and makes it look like he is taking the fort. That way, the opposing army, the Ottoman army, goes after him and leaves the retreating crew alive. When the retreating crew gets back to the line, they fire the flare, letting him know that they are safe. He told them when he sees the flare, he will also retreat. But here's the thing. Bishop knew that that wasn't an option. Bishop knew that once that flare went off, the dreadnought would fire again and the artillery would fall down right upon him. He went and sacrificed himself so that the youngsters could get out alive. Now, at this time in the Middle East, the Arabs were rebelling against the Ottoman Empire, and specifically in this mission, you play as a rebel female by the name of Zara Gufran, probably saying that last name wrong. Now, in this mission, you are working your way into a toppled train because you believe that the Ottomans' code book can be found inside, and when Zara eventually makes her way there, she ends up getting trapped. But what the Ottomans didn't know is that the rebels were working with a famous British liaison and soldier by the name of Lawrence, specifically Lawrence of Arabia.
Well, you did not think we would be fast enough to catch you here, did you? Lawrence of Arabia. Actually, I was rather depending on it. Eh, Lawrence? Well, this is very clever. Now the hunter becomes the hunted. So who might you be? How enchanting you are, my dear. Ahmed.
I'll show you enchanting. If it weren't for you, I'd be free.
Free, is it? You'll be free when you're dead. And I'm happy to tell you, the Empire intends to grant you all this freedom very soon.
Now, the Ottomans then fill them in about this train, a war train that they have created that is armored, that can shoot people at a long range, send in artillery. And basically, this is causing havoc for this rebellion that they are pushing forward. And they're not gonna win unless this train is taken out. So they end up setting up a trap where they're basically gonna blow the lines on two sides of the train track, which allows them to trap the train, and they're gonna shoot it with a bunch of explosives and things like that. And lo and behold, it actually works. And this changes the tide of the war and is one of the reasons why the Ottomans were pushed out of the area.
Vengeance can be a sweet or bitter brew. How did you find it, Zara?
And that's the thing with war. All we have left in the end is stories. And the sad part about it is, like the end of the game says, only 1 in 1,000 of those stories will actually be told. And the thing is do we even really know whether or not those stories are true, when a good percentage of the people who are a part of them are never there to tell the tales of what really happened. Battlefield 1 does an amazing job of telling some of these stories, whether they all be true or whether parts of them be true. Some of us may never know. And whether that be a story of thousands dying on the front lines, of one soldier that makes it out of a tank fight, the lies and deceptions of a pilot, or something else altogether, what we have at the end of the day is a bunch of sad and sometimes happy stories. Because
every once in a while, we push hard enough that the light breaks through the clouds, and a world beyond the war glimmers, just out of reach. The war is the world, and the world is the war. But behind every gun sight is a human being. We are those people. We are the jaded, we are the naive, we are the honorable and the criminal. We are the bound for legend and the lost to history. We are the knights of the sky, the ghosts in the desert, and the rats in the mud. These are our stories.